Destroy Superman.
Today I look at Goofs from the Christopher Reeve movie Superman 4, which suffered in quality due to the production company Canon cutting the movie's budget in half, its length to fit in more showings at theaters, and even the time allotted to perfect the special effects scenes. The problem with this scene is that his cape shouldn't be flapping because he's in outer space, so there's no wind to blow his cape around. And the other thing is that they use this same exact flying sequence a lot in the movie.
Tam здесь будет безопаснее, товарищ. До свидания. Счастливого полета.
Now it's my understanding without air it's impossible for sound to travel in space, so would Superman be able to speak to the cosmonaut? Maybe that's why he looks so surprised.
Clark? Clark, things aren't that bad, Clark!
Superman needs to confide in Lois, but since he wiped away his secret identity from her memory in the second movie, he has to remind her.
Stop! Clark!
But why does he do it the hard way, by walking off a building and risking Lois having a heart attack? She was a smoker after all. Or maybe I'm just nitpicking in this case.
The dude of steel. Boy, are you gonna get it?
In the first two Superman movies, Lex Luthor wears a wig because he's completely bald. In this film, it appears Lex just has a bald spot.
Silly me, thinking I could fool a super guy.
Unless he's wearing a hairpiece with a bald spot.
You're right.
One of the biggest goofs was made on the part of Canon, who forced Christopher Reeve and the film team to cut the movie's time down significantly in order to get more playtime in theaters. A few action scenes were gone that might have made the movie a bit more fun, like Superman's fight with the first nuclear man. In the Wall of China scene, Superman gets a brand new power, which seems awfully convenient. Superman doesn't normally have the power to move things with his mind or by looking at it. Normally, you imagine Superman reconstructing a structure using his hands and super speed. Of course, there was this in Superman 2 showing a Phantom Zone villain doing the levitation thing with his finger, but two wrongs don't make a right. Now just imagine if Superman used this eye power on every problem. The movie would only last about 10 minutes. In this fight scene between Superman and Nuclear Man, we are supposed to be in a huge city. But here in this shot, you can clearly see that this building is definitely not tall enough to be in downtown Metropolis. Again, this was due to Canon cutting back the time for editing and cutting the budget in half. And here's another instance where Superman is using that eyeball power again. When the fire hydrant explodes, it looks like cheap styrofoam. It's impossible for Nuclear Man or Superman to hold up the entire Statue of Liberty by one end like they're showing here. That part of the statue was not built to support the weight of the entire structure. That section would crumble in their hands if they applied the amount of strength necessary to move the statue around in the air. In this scene where Nuclear Man and Superman are fighting in outer space, in this one shot it looks like they're standing on solid ground versus actually flying and fighting in the air. In this scene, there's a long white string stretching over the top of the hood of the cab to the sign. Must have been for the special effect, I assume, but I have no idea what role this string played.
Destroy Superman.
So towards the end of the picture, Nuclear Man kidnaps Lacy from the Daily Planet and flies her into outer space. Meanwhile, Superman gets the brilliant idea of moving the moon in front of the sun to block Nuclear Man's powers. So okay, there's two problems with this. One, if Superman pushes hard enough to push the moon in front of the sun, he would probably push through it like a bullet instead of, well, actually pushing the moon. Second, if he was able to push the moon in front of the sun, moving the moon like that would probably cause a lot of tidal waves and all kinds of chaos on planet Earth that he'd have to solve later.
Effective immediately, I'm going to rid our planet of all nuclear weapons.
Well, that is one way of doing it. Well, even if Superman's plan works, Lacy should not be alive at this point. She's in the middle of outer space without a spacesuit, and I can't even think of all the ways that she should be dead by now. You know, their hair shouldn't be blowing around, as there is no air in space. There is such a thing as solar wind, which is a continual stream of protons and electrons from the sun. But according to what I read, it would barely ruffle your hair. The Daily Planet is supposed to be an American newspaper, and yet they use the spelling of favorite that is used in the UK and not the spelling that is used in America. You know, Christopher Reeve gave it his all, I believe, but he and the rest of the people that cared about this movie couldn't save it. It became the worst Superman movie of all time, despite having some of the greatest actors of all time. If Cannon would have kept the budget as agreed upon and not used half of Superman's budget for the Masters of the Universe movie, and let Reeve and the others working on this movie put their best foot forward, they might have created something much better and made a good profit instead of a loss. If they would have gotten Richard Donner on board, you would have almost guaranteed a profit. As it stands, I wish Warner Brothers would hire somebody to put all the pieces together for this movie for the sake of Christopher Reeve's legacy. He put his heart and soul into this movie. And I think this should not stand as his last work as Superman, the way it is now. I can't believe they cut out so much of the action from this movie, which would have obviously been its biggest selling point. I would definitely redo the Wall of China scene, somehow, even if it means using CGI. But that's my opinion. What do y'all think? So voice your opinion in the comments below. Let me know what you thought about the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell for future notifications so you don't miss any new videos. Hit the like and have a super day.